Hello everyone. So today I thought I wanted to pull out my old journal, right here. Take a look at it from all the way back from high school. I just wanted to go page by page and, analyze each page, try to, reflect upon the person I used to be and the person I am now. So I figured I can just go on as many pages as I feel like doing tonight, or as many pages as my phone battery will allow. So I guess all we really need to do is start. The first one, December 7th, 2019. I have recently been experiencing strong feelings of guilt. They first began when Grape told me that Orange was taking all AP classes and taking hours of music lessons. For what instrument, it escapes my memory. After hearing that, the emotions which I felt in the winter of 2015 seemed to return. What I felt that year was my first insight into the emotional side of puberty. I fell into a state of depression for the Christmas week. At the time of writing this memoir, I have come to realize the emotions I fell. Oh, sorry, it's feel. It's really some spelling mistakes. The emotions I feel now are separate from those of 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I fell into a bout of depression for little more than any reason that my brain could generate. Little more than any reason my brain could generate to hold me in that state. What I feel now is what I believe pertains to a far more serious topic. Grape has recently informed me that in addition to performing every day for the entirety of this week, weekend included, that she'll be in performances for the entirety of the next 2 weeks leading up to our 2 weeks off. The guilt I first felt had to do with what I believe to be a need to prove myself to someone, that I could handle a certain level of stress, work hard enough to achieve something, or to put my efforts into something I believe has some significance due to its importance or perceived importance. So sorry for a lot of pauses. I haven't pre-read these yet, so every time a page or a sentence cuts off, usually moves to the next line, I might take some time to pause a little bit. But discussing the actual content of this this entry. So feelings of guilt, I find this is just generally a feeling guilt that I'm not working hard enough or doing enough. I know a lot of people have this problem where, I was in high school, I was going through, I think this was, actually I was a freshman when this was written. Essentially it was, just as I stated, I felt like I could be doing more, I could achieve more. This is something that would come up later. Even more recently now, it's something that I still kind of struggle with, that felt like I could have done more. And on to Christmas. So basically that was, 2015 was the earliest point in my life where I could remember feeling a strong sense of, strong overpowering emotions that I felt, you could describe as a sort of depression maybe. I don't know. I've never actually been diagnosed for any sort of psychological condition, so I'm not really sure about it, but it was kind of one of the first things, and it's important. It's an important event in my life because it kind of unnerved me and introduced me to some of the stresses that you would experience in life. But I got better. I moved on, and on we march. Not marching like that. That's a prop for historical reasons, or actually not historical, just for hobby reasons. But the hat doesn't even match. That's a Finnish hat in a German uniform. Doesn't make sense. I feel like I put that stuff in the background just to as rage bait to get someone. And by rage bait, I don't mean, I'm not trying to stir up political stuff, but when we talk about bad actors, the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, I know it's funny I have that flag, but That's not meant to be a political statement. That's just a piece of decoration I found interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the changing names to fruit. I guess I'll keep that as the theme for hiding people's identities. Yeah. Oh yeah, and talking about grapes. So that was just somebody I knew in the somebody I knew. Say music lessons. Yeah, I guess that pretty much covers most of that. So yeah, on Pearl Harbor anniversary. That's what I was thinking. December 8th, 2019, unless that was the Pearl Harbor anniversary. Well, at least in Japan it was, because I think calendar, dates were different. But so December 8th of 2019. I need to maintain my physical health, especially in regards to nutrient intake. There is unquestionably an overlap between how physically and emotionally well someone is. Okay, this is something that would also create some challenges, or be a challenge in my life. The dealing with essentially this was mostly about healthy eating, just because I felt like actually back to the psychological thing. I don't like to fall into that trap where I try to where you try to overdiagnose yourself with a large number of mental disorders. The whole deal we see with the Instagram, TikTok, nervous trend of people self-diagnosing and finding a lot of young people end up self-diagnosing themselves with like several dozen different mental disorders. But to be honest, I think I would say I did have a binge eating problem at some point in my life. So I was just very concerned about that. And not just binge eating, but also exercise, physical exercise. Although I did play a sport in high school, so I wasn't so concerned with that. Now it's become more relevant that I'm not playing sports competitively, so I have to actually take time out of my schedule to exercise. But essentially it was just a lot of anxiety about that. That's what this topic is referring to. So December 9th, just a day later, another day. Why must puberty be a seemingly unending emotional roller coaster? If I had to give an answer to this question, I assume it's to build strength and character so that each individual has the capacity to survive on their own. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. It's just, at this time I was a high schooler, as stated, so going through a lot of, puberty, going through puberty. It's also pretty simple to understand this one. I would say there is a, and just dealing with all the associated challenges with that. I would say that this one is a little more positive. It does have some positive a positive element to it, where we try to think about how, as you deal with struggle, it teaches you how to deal with and overcome those struggles. Because I was aware enough and coherent enough to understand this concept. So, I have some degree of positivity there. So we were able to, move forward. Okay, so next one, December 16th. So more than 1 day in between time, or 0 days, I guess. So December 16th. I cannot pinpoint why such minor trivial things which have no effect on the physical world continue to eat away at my sanity. If only I could possibly realize the origin of my superstition. Okay, remember when I said I wasn't going to overdiagnose myself with like 19 mental disorders? Okay, this one is OCD. This one is legitimate though. So I would say OCD is the real one. Okay, it's at least the one real one, the one we can say for certain. But yeah, the superstitions was basically just a way in which OCD manifests where, worry about trivial things that, they say, like, if you don't do this thing, then, I know some people say, like, if you don't do this thing, you feel like you're gonna die. I never thought that my life was in jeopardy, but I thought that like the quality of my life is in jeopardy. I was worried that it was like everything would be like a bad luck curse, or the universe would be slightly offset. It would be asymmetrical, which the lack of symmetry to many obsessive compulsive people is a nightmare. December 20th. When I begin shaking, I usually am able to pinpoint the origin of my nervous energy. However, every so often, I begin to tremble from a reason which escapes my understanding. So, I think this goes on to what we had been talking about with the prior entry, where it's very clearly an OCD-related one. And also how I have often been very aware. I am self-aware as to what is causing certain strain on my mind and my psyche. This just refers to cases in which there are times where I either am unable to pinpoint what exactly an issue is coming from, or or sometimes a little anxious to admit. There are many cases where, sometimes I feel like if a reason is too normal or something, sort of using it as an excuse to feel unique or special, then I don't want to admit. This will come up later for romantic endeavors. Believe it or not, yeah.
Go pick up your sister, Meech. Just practically. Never mind, Mother will.
Okay, thank you. I love you very much, and I'm definitely a very nice person. Okay. No, I'm joking.
You're alright too, brother.
Thanks, man. Okay, for a reason which escapes my understand. I was. Who knows? Maybe that was a cue to say stop talking about romance. I'm very qualified to give romantic advice. Okay. But yes, actually, that's another thing about OCD, is wondering if every although this is something I know even a lot of I guess quote unquote normal people, neurotypical people, I guess, will say is whether or not things are a sign from the universe or deity or whatever greater universal spiritual concept you happen to believe in. But anyways, that's a long time down the road. But at least as far as these journal entries are concerned, pretty recent in my actual life. But anyways, December 21. I need to be more concerned with every aspect of the physical state of my body. From now on, another improvement to make. Take care of your arm. So another thing about physical body. So a lot of times you'll probably find repeat entries that are effectively just restatements of the same old things. That has a lot to do with the fact that I feel like we constantly need reminders. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why self-help books are still popular, because if you only needed one piece of advice, you would probably, someone would write a single book on it, everyone would read that book and life would be great. But we have to constantly take ideas and just have them repeatedly hammered into us in order to really get them to stick. And also, debate and discuss them, and, they change. And, I think that's how a lot of philosophy works, where somebody presents a good idea, but then, dozens of other people present like slightly modified versions of it. But anyways, so from now on, another improvement to take care of your arm. So this is something a little more specific beyond just the healthy eating and exercise. So when I was in high school, I played baseball, and I was a pitcher. So I would, throw throw the ball a lot. Had to throw it hard, so that puts a lot of strain on your arm, and there's a whole process to take care of it, to make sure that it stays in functioning working condition. You have to do proper stretching and exercises like running to flush lactic acid from your arm down to your leg. One of the primary so it's like with most things that there is a whole scientific explanation or process. There is a complicated process to it. It's a lot more complex than you might think it. I feel like I'm trying to talk about and make it all seem a lot more special than it is. It's really complex, guys. Like, trust me. Like, running to take care of your arm, super complex. Like, probably a fairly simple concept in anatomy, and I'm sure most doctors would probably say like, oh yeah, it's super easy to learn. Well, at least comparatively to the other stuff you'll have to learn in medical school. But yeah, basically that's the essentials of that. So, anyways, I'm just drag out how many sentences? A 2-sentence entry into as long as I can. Oh, this one's even shorter. December 26th. For as much as I good and intrigue for as much good and intrigue I see in the world, there is also much I fear. I always kind of wonder what I was thinking at the time when I wrote this. That's all good, sis. It's all good. Wondering what I was thinking when I wrote this. But I think a lot just has to do with fear of the future. It's a pretty common, in fact, fear of the future is, pretty sure that's, fear of the future and the unknown is like one of the most common fears. Okay, we're good. One of the most common fears, and I guess that's really all I'd say. It's something that goes through I think just about every reasonably functioning human's mind. So, what was it? December 28th. Jealously. There's a lot more spelling mistakes than I thought there would be. Jealousy, likely also causing some issues. So again, I think this might have had more to do with that. Not jealousy in like a romantic sense, but more jealousy in the sense of back to that working hard thing, or you know what? Actually, I think I remember this. This was referring to, I felt like I never got into like the groups of friends that I wanted to, and maybe it was a little romantic liking, because I think there was some of the, I think there was like that I wasn't in the community of that I wanted to get near the vicinity of certain girls that I found attractive. I wouldn't say liked, because I didn't really know their personalities, so of course that's a very important thing to get to know. But I didn't, so I also at least I liked in a lot of not just girls, to be perfectly respectful, I'd say a lot of non-binary people, which hopefully I'll say in a non-fetishistic way. But like I do genuinely like find attractive. But anyways, this entry also has one written down a little bit lower, written in ink. Just respect, earn it. So just about how to earn respect, or just reminding myself to that respect is something that you have to work hard to earn. It effectively, it's just a reminder to work hard, I guess. December 29th. Don't stress, don't fear. There will always be hope to which you must cling. another optimistic outlook, just a reminder to be optimistic. Just, probably worried about something, just said, but there's something in the future to look forward to, so that's all good and well. Okay, January 1st, 2020, start of the new year. Well, I'm aware of the importance of making and maintaining social relationships and connections. It's while I'm well aware of the importance of making and maintaining social relationships and connections, I often find doing so to be incredibly stressful. This one actually has two different entries, so I'll analyze the first one. Okay, so I guess this makes me think about how I've always been a little bit of a socially awkward person. Maybe not necessarily awkward all the time, just a little bit of a nervous and anxious person. I've been well enough off to the point where I've been able to make friends, hold down friendships, a wide variety of different relationships. So I think I'm well socialized enough to do that, but I feel like I've always been on the side of it's a little more challenging for me. I think I've talked about probably some neurodivergence in there that might be contributing to that. So, but all in all, it's actually been pretty good and manageable. The second one, capitalize when opportunities present themselves. Take advantage of the situation. So this one is something that I find is a piece of advice that you could interpret as kind of a positive or negative thing. I would say it's more of a neutral piece of advice. It's just kind of like using tools. Like when you capitalize on an opportunity, you can ask yourself if this is something that is a moral or immoral action. But I would say, whatever happens, you think about what to be gained, but also if you're sacrificing a part of yourself, it's something important is to not let opportunities pass you by, because oftentimes there are things on the table for a limited time, and you have to know when to seize hold of them. Carpe diem, seize the day. So January 11th, inferiority complex might be an issue. This is again back to the first entry about anxiety about not working hard enough. Just feeling like I'm not as amazing as a person as I would like to fantasize to be. I know plenty of us have probably dealt with that before. But don't worry too much about it. You gotta be comfortable with yourself. You're your own person. Don't fake your personality. Be a real G. This guy knows a thing or two about being a real G.
What up, gang?
So, January 21st, the week following Christmas, Grape broke up with me. So yeah, first relationship ended. I know, like I said, can you believe I ever did that romance? But anyways, so high school was a fun time, or an interesting time. So I find it seems like it was pretty emotional, but I find for this relationship, I would say it was I would describe it as like a high school relationship. I don't know if I'm discrediting it too much, but I'll have some things to say that I feel like I never really thought it was all that serious in the first place, but I guess I'll finish reading the entry. The week following Christmas, Grape broke up with me. There has been a high level of emotional buildup for me to unpack. My attempts to maintain a friendly relationship has caused me an even greater deal of stress. There is much I have to learn and experience, more than I care to write tonight. I sometimes wonder why we must go through this phase of our life. This one, okay, so I think where I see something in this is, not so much the strain of breaking up, and I remember to talk about how I said I didn't care about it that much, but it still did cause some emotions to build up. I think that was something that was kind of unavoidable to run into with your first, at least, attempt at a romantic relationship. But I think what's more the serious thing is when I describe the more than I care to write tonight, I would encounter feelings and situations that were complex enough to the point where they were exhausting to navigate. You know, I would go into specifics of, because a lot of these are very general. They're not about specific details so much that I can't even remember what I was thinking about. Later, you'll find some entries. If you read through my journals, you'll find more specific. The entries become more specific as I go on. There are still plenty of, you know, jotted down entries that are just kind of general reminders, but a lot of, but another thing when these very detailed, more specific entries is they are exhausting to get out. I have tried to write much, and even more recently, you know, ones that like I seem too painful to even maintain possession of, you know, torn out and thrown out. A lot of this, you know, surprise, surprise, the thing that I, you know, you always, whenever you're a young boy, you always, you know, I feel like a lot of times, you know, I wasn't that like, I'm not going to fall into the trap of romance, but here I am. I've had enough of my, not romantic drama, but romantic drama that plays out in my head. Conveniently, or fortunately, my real life has been much more even keel. It's mostly what goes on in here that creates the concern, that creates the situations, not my real life. So fortunate enough for that. And then the second section of the January 21 entry. I fear that a person who offered me an escape from my lonely anxiety has been lost to me, that an individual who I had felt a genuine connection to has become disillusioned with me. If the bonds of friendship could be torn by the ill experiences of something more. I've always feared regression. Emotions in the mind, as do muscles. Take the hit, grow back bigger and stronger. It's actually two different sections I've read together, but the thing about the friend regression, I think, so here's where I just straight up don't name the person, but yeah, I think this is something that I've actually worried about with several people, and I know this is something that a lot of people who struggle with social interaction deal with, where you talk to someone and then you have like one minor incident that you pay attention, or not even incident, you just pay attention to their interaction, and you feel like, you know, oh my gosh, do they not like me anymore, or something like that. It's something you find that it can usually be overlooked, since I go back almost every day to people who I feel like a little, and they say, no, you're a perfectly fine person. Sure, maybe a little awkward, but you're not a dislikable person, which is something I always, something I always like to hear. But I'm glad that, sort of kind of proved to myself that I, a lot of this stuff gets overblown in your head. You're, a lot of times the problems start with the man in the mirror, or the person in the mirror, just anybody. In a lot of cases, you can judge for yourself whether or not they start with you or with someone else, since, of course, there are situations where, you don't always want to blame yourself. I know that's a tactic used by people attempting to manipulate situations or manipulate others, is to blame them for causing a problem that's clearly not their fault. But that's not what I'm here to discuss right now. So
yeah, for real.
So regression, yeah, that's second and third sections are just kind of about that worry about regression. Always kind of worried about that our progress would be undone, because you have to deal with the pain of going back to rebuild everything again. So that's I think that's another thing that most people can probably understand on their own. Just I don't know, just imagine doing an assignment and your Google Doc gets deleted and it doesn't auto save or something, or you close down the doc so you can't like retrieve the text.
Slay.
So January 29, Grape approached me while I was walking into my first class of the day. Thank you, breathe and maintain. And then I'll just read the second section. Funny, I forgot to mention. She showed me 2 sketches. One of a knight, one of a knight of who I presume were the Knights Templar, and the other a much more heavily armored crusader. Upon reflection, it might have been a member of the Adeptus Astartes or Space Marine from Warhammer 40k, but I don't really remember. But Grape, my high school girlfriend, basically this was another, and where I talk about recurring themes here. I was saying I was glad because, about the able to maintain a friendship. Now, I know this may seem like a kind of strange thing where I talk about another concern is maybe it just comes from that mentality of just, why can't we all be friends type of mentality that I always try to think about, and where like, I'm like, why do so many, why when a relationship ends is it generally expected that couples like will end up not liking each other? I mean, I guess you can think of a few pretty obvious reasons for this. Like, well, it's probably the reason they broke up is because they started to not like each other, or usually, you break up for a pretty severe reason that causes a significant rift in a relationship. But, sometimes sometimes it's a matter of convenience. Sometimes it's a matter of convenience. There's, a whole bunch of reasons that you could possibly imagine, and maybe another important thing is also just to note my refusal to use the prefix or noun by itself of X. That's more of another OCD thing for a variety of reasons. I don't know, maybe it's just because kind of seeing it as like a vulgar word, not because I believe that it's vulgar, but just because it's kind of the associating negative things with it. It kind of makes me all, all nervous and anxious. There's a lot of kind of strange things that do, but, I've tried to write about a lot of these things, but it goes back to the exhaustion thing where I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with these emotions. Or I say sometimes maybe it's something we'll deal with another day, or not at all even. Talk about where forgetting something and live and let be, just leave alone and forget. Sometimes, and I know that's often used as like an example, and you'll see in media as something that you shouldn't do. There's some things that I think, if there's no visible solution, the best thing you can do is just forget about it. We'll talk about that, well, who knows, maybe later. I feel like that's kind of an important thing, but who knows, maybe someday I'll swallow my own words, and I think I might want to someday anyways, because I feel like kind of exploring all of our thoughts and emotions are something that we should take the time to do at least once. And I've thought about certain things a lot, but that I do want to write down, just to have in writing, have a record of it. Maybe some people in the future can analyze that, and who knows, maybe find something about the human psyche or something to do with that. But we'll see. Maybe we'll move on to number or we'll move on to give me a second. So February 8th, pitched 1 inning in a varsity game. Nervous, but came through. Game was on Thursday. No runs. This is just a record of my time throwing in a base of my time pitching in a baseball game. It's, as I'm sure you can tell. So I was, I forget if I was a freshman or a first year student for non-North Americans or non-Anglo speaking North Americans. So first year high school, or excuse me, first year secondary school student, or a second year, because in third and fourth I would have been on varsity anyways, so either first or second year of secondary school. Let's use the like more internationally friendly language. Okay, so basically just no runs, so I did well. The day of the week it was pretty much just saying that I did well in a game. February 11, the stress of emotions, athletics, and schoolwork can be piled so high. I wonder when is the most truly stressful time in our life. So wondering about the truly most stressful time in our life, I think about how a lot of people I talk to, and that I'm sure many of us talk to, the adults in our life tell us that, is that, if we show ourselves to be too sensitive in these early days, that, that'll be nothing compared to what life will be like in the future. This is something I do wonder, and it might have to, and it likely does have to do with our level of toughness. I do wonder how, both factoring in our level of toughness in ability to deal with a situation, which grows as we get older and gain more experiences, grows at a fast enough rate to keep up with the new challenges, and how, or whether it grows at an even faster rate for some people, where the challenges they face in the future, by comparison, actually seem easier, or at least not necessarily easier, but again, back to a bigger focus on psychological, on the psychological pressure put on people. Does, when we're older, we actually have an easier time, psychologically speaking, than we do when we were younger, even though tasks are ostensibly higher stakes. You're usually running businesses, or working for companies where real hard money is at stake, not just grades, these these seemingly meaningless pieces of paper that we're all working towards in school. Not necessarily meaningless. Not necessarily meaningless. They are reflective of our achievements and our work, but where you say this piece of paper that just states that we're, qualified to do something, or that we've completed classes in to dealing with working with pieces of paper that are supposedly worth something, money or legal documents, but does our mind become more capable of dealing with those stresses, those things of higher stakes, that it technically or ironically creates a situation in which later in life is actually easier for us than when we were in school, and that school ends up being the most stressful time in our life, that like high school, where I know this is a joke that you'll hear in like American high school movies, where they'll make a point about how high school is the most important time and most challenging part of any human's life. But this is basically the idea of, what if that isn't a joke? What if that actually is the hardest point in life? And while challenges get more challenging on like a technical level without factoring in the mental and psychological situations of dealing with it, because your mind learns how to stop caring so much, or it gets tough enough to the point where high school was the most challenging part in your life. But anyways, I think we've spent enough time on this one, rambling on. sure you can tell if I went to go use the bathroom, turned off the camera, started a new recording. I think about how I feel like I start acting different every time I get up to go do something, ramble on for even longer. I mean, the first half of this, the first time I turned on the camera was already me rambling incoherently, but, hey, that's what this is about, just rambling. But anyways, February 14. Anime and associated people have an odd way of making me feel more emotionally vulnerable. Another section, the second section on this one, I hate when disabilities are played for jokes, mental and physical. So the first one, I feel like this is something that would have been better stated if I wrote a much longer entry, but basically it's saying that when I say anime, and maybe this isn't necessarily okay. So first of all, when I say anime, I mean like the kind of Japanese pop culture, like Japanese pop culture in general, and a lot of things that use that anime art style. So this includes like video games and Vocaloids and music that like use like anime style drawing avatars to represent themselves. Why exactly? I'm not sure. They kind of always had a way of making me feel more sensitive. Maybe it had to do with the way that I think it might have had something to do with the way that I conditioned myself. I would always, whenever I was younger, and this kind of factors back into probably some OCD habits. OCD or who knows, maybe autism is more of a reflective or this is more of a type of behavior more reflective of autism, but I feel like I always treated watching anime as a special occasion. Always had to be very well prepared for it. It's sort of like as a reward. I want to make sure I have all my responsibilities done, that I treated it like a serious subject, and I, as a reward for a job well done, whether it be, all my schoolwork done and athletics had gone well. So I don't do this quite as much anymore, but I think it had the habit of, making me more nervous and anxious, where like use the bathroom more frequently. Since of course, whenever you're nervous, you do tend to use the bathroom more because your body's trying to flush out all the impurities from your body. At least that's what I think it is. Again, I'm not a physician. Don't take medical advice from me. But when I discuss this, and I think it's just kind of, I always try to do, and I always try to, so I treat it as a special occasion, but I always try to emotionally invest myself, sort of immerse myself. Take immersion seriously. This happens, of course, listening to music as well. Now I kind of don't do this as much, but I was very much one of those types of people where I would lie in bed at night, playing like English or playing covers of Vocaloid songs, my earbuds in, and even learning the lyrics to a couple of songs. And not all that great at singing or memorizing lyrics, but there's a few that I could, and quite frankly, I guess you could say that it is a little cringe-inducing, but that's kind of the the emotions I delved into. So yeah, making me feel vulnerable, just kind of, it's kind of what put me in the most like this is something that makes me feel things, I guess. So the second section, I hate when disabilities are played for jokes, whether mental or physical. It's just watching pieces of media where you see like a character who's very clearly just disabled and has some type of and you just see portrayed as something that's supposed to be comic relief. I was trying to think about examples for this. I was thinking about 99 from Star Wars: The Clone Wars, but I remembered 99 was not played for a joke. 99 was played very seriously, and as for anyone who's seen Clone Wars, little important thing, he's portrayed as going out like a true soldier, It's like, we will remember you, 99. Yeah, it's just one thing that always kind of like, and this is even prior to my and I know whenever I discuss any of kind of the social ramifications of the wider world, you're probably thinking about how much of this is influenced by socio-political philosophy and rhetoric that you've read. Very very little actually. Yeah, a lot of get camera adjustment. Very little actually. I can remember having that problem with disability representation way before I read any progressive like papers on how there needs to be more representation in media. Like I just automatically was in that mindset before ever being indoctrinated by the progressive cultural Marxists. Sorry. Sorry. I really did not want to turn this into make it political culture war insert right now, but yeah, just be frank and honest. I don't know. I haven't been too into politics, so well, recently anyways. But yeah, keep moving. So March 2nd. In our youthful days, we have the physical capabilities of accomplishing things greater than many will ever do. It is the struggle of ... Sometimes I forget what I came here to write about in the first place. Perhaps it was and maybe still is too soon to accomplish things which will be known by millions or make millions. However, we are armed with creative capabilities which we can employ at any time, even this age. Some cultures believe that one's journey doesn't start until they leave home. Maybe the journey starts from home. And remember, there is no uniform specific age in which the universe decides all people are and should be ready. And hey, bury your superstitions. Well, the harmful ones at least. It's bury like underground. So this is also split into several sections, but it's kind of all mostly about the same. A lot of these are about similar topics. So the physical capabilities to accomplish things greater. This is all about youth and having wondering about when to leave the house. You're probably noticing about the mention of superstition. This, again, another OCD related thing was that I remember my grandfather told me that he told me something about like some cultures believe that your journey doesn't start until you leave the house, and that's a fairly understandable belief to hold. But the way my brain interpreted that was that like you won't like achieve anything on your own, or you're not like an independently like existing person until you leave your parents'